Hello vlog. First and foremost, I think I should address the elephant on my face. I had to get a mole removed. It was precautionary, everything's fine, but there is going to be a bandage. It's a different bandage every day. I have to clean it and replace the bandage every day, and I think I have a couple days left where I'm going to have a bandage on my face, so at least for part of the vlog, I'm going to have a bandage on my face, so. Secondly, this is going to be a very interesting vlog because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. I have had a really bad book hangover after finishing 2 Twisted Crowns. I haven't been able to pick up another book because I just keep thinking about it. I've gone back and I've tabbed it. I didn't tab it while reading because I didn't have my tabs on hand. It's a whole thing. But I went back and tabbed it, and I keep going back and writing in and connecting dots with other things. I literally haven't been sleeping. I'm so obsessed with this book still. I truly hyperfixated on this series and still am, and I can't find much art or anything from it. Because I'm obsessed with Elm and Ione very much, and finding art of them, I've looked on Tumblr, Instagram, Pinterest. Those are the only social medias I have, and I'm not really finding. I have found some art, but I looked on Etsy for prints, or I think it's called InPrint is another place people sell prints, and I'm not. There's not enough appreciation for Elm and Ione. Elm's backstory, Ione's backstory, they're both such good characters. The dots I'm connecting with their backstories, not just for each other, but on themselves, watching the development for both of them, and hearing the story from Elm and then connecting to how that makes him with Ione. It's obviously I'm very obsessed with them. So that's why I have tried to pick up books a couple of times and start them, and was just not able to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read The Hurricane Wars. I have the book. I got it from Pango Books, which I could not recommend enough. I've talked about it before, and of course my ambassador code is in my description, but you know, that's another thing. I have the book, but I found the audiobook on Hoopla, and so I'm going to do something that I talked about in my Reading with ADHD video, where I listen to the audiobook and read the book at the same time, because especially since I'm having such a hard time thinking about anything other than 2 Twisted Crowns, and I also think I have to accept that, I think that's part of the reason why I'm having a hard time. Let me finish a sentence. Part of the reason why I'm having a hard time picking up a new book is I have to accept the fact that I'm probably not going to love it as much as I love these 2 books, but that's okay. I can still just like books. I can still enjoy books. Not every book is going to impact me the way certain books do. But because I'm having a harder time focusing, the audiobook and the physical book at the same time, I think is really going to help. So this is going to be a very interesting vlog. It's already obviously been very rambly. It's a time, okay? It's a time right now, and yeah. I feel like I'm always vlogging in my Jimmy Jammies and my hair's a mess, but I also have a bandage on my face, so what are we gonna do? All right, so far the book is about a girl named Taliesin. She's 20 years old. There's a war going on. She's fighting in the war against this knight empire. I'm getting Star Wars vibes. I'm very much getting Star Wars vibes from this book. But the Knight Empire uses storm machines or something like that. I really need to stop touching my hair. I do it in every vlog and everything. You guys, if you've watched my vlogs, it's a bad habit of mine. So she's part of an army that's fighting against the Knight Empire that uses storm weapons. They have lightning cannons, I think they call them. She also definitely has this I think light magic. I'm just kind of guessing right now. She also gets these strange visions, and there is rumors about dragons, which I don't think is connected. It might be connected to her. I don't know yet. I haven't quite put anything together that leads me to believe they're connected to her, but they think if they can find these dragons or this kingdom with dragons, that it'll help aid them in their war effort. Although Taliesin's I'm not quite sure how a dragon goes up against, something like a lightning cannon. But Taliesin, dragons breathe fire, so I'm kind of thinking that maybe it could be a fair fight. Also, as I was going to get more food, I just thought of she already has this desire for love, for romance, but it seems like she's kind of interested in having any kind of love because she was an orphan, but you can tell that she's maybe that one special person, so I'm expecting quite a bit of romance. God, I look exhausted. Maybe because I am, and also I just woke up. Who really cares? We all have our moments, right? So anyway, I also am wearing a t-shirt and not wearing pink, and I do not feel my best self in a t-shirt and not pink, because pink is objectively the best color. And I just am not comfortable in t-shirts. I find them to be very uncomfortable, but majority of my clothes are packed right now, which is another thing, but we don't have to talk about that. So anyway, I'm making myself a fruit smoothie for breakfast and thinking about how they canceled My Lady Jane, and I'm so mad. That is the best show I've seen all year, and it's fun, and even though it was silly, it was a good show, and I'm just so tired of everything getting canceled before it gets a chance to really have its moment. Like, you give it one season and then you're like, sorry, you're canceled. We don't like anything that is not making us a bajillion dollars. So anyway, the book I'm reading slash listening to an audiobook of right now, The Hurricane Wars, I'm like 20% of the way through, and you can very much tell it's Reylo fan fiction. Like with the love hypothesis, had I not known going into that it was Reylo fan fiction, I wouldn't have ever clocked that. Possibly because I've only seen the sequels like twice, because remember, the sequels aren't real, they can't hurt you. But this one is just very much like Star Wars, and I have a lot of thoughts on it so far, but I'm waiting until I get more into it. Right now, it's just kind of okay for me, but I am going to continue giving it a chance and seeing how I feel. I'm not ready to stop it or like DNF it at this point. I'm not at that point, but I'm hoping it does get better. And it being inspired by Reylo, or it being fan fiction turned into a book, is not the issue or anything. I've already said this before, but I love fan fiction. It doesn't have to do with that, because fan fiction can be well written. It's just other stuff with it. But again, I wanted to go into that more after I read more of it. At this point, I have to finish making my smoothie, and it's gonna get real loud in here, so So I did end up halfway through deciding to DNF. First of all, I think it's really interesting that it's marketed as a fantasy, because it was reading as more of a sci-fi to me. It does have fantasy elements, but it was truly just reading as more of a sci-fi to me. And honestly, that could be part of the reason why I didn't finish it. I like sci-fis, but they don't have the effect on me that fantasy worlds do. I love escaping to fantasy worlds and dissecting them and the world building, all that kind of stuff. I'm just more of a fantasy person myself, which might sound weird coming from me. If you've seen past videos, if you've been here for a while, you probably know that I do love Star Wars. I have a lightsaber tattoo. I go feral talking about Star Wars. I went to Galaxy's Edge that one time. It is something I love. Oh, and ranting in my love hypothesis vlog about how the sequels do not exist. Sorry, but to me they are not canon. Star Wars, for some reason, is the exception for me. I connected to Star Wars in a way that I have not connected with other sci-fi stories, but I have with other fantasy stories. Because again, fantasy is like my love. So I didn't hate this book, but just starting off with it having more sci-fi elements than fantasy elements, it wasn't necessarily made for me to obsess over. I am not the target audience for this book, is what I more or less realized. I do have a little bit of criticism with the pacing and the world building. You are just kind of thrown into it and given a lot of information with very little explanation about it. I do think the world building was well done with the politics. Politically, it was well plotted out, but there's other parts of it that just can get a bit convoluted when it's giving you a lot with little explanation. It's also a world that has like this advanced technology and dragons and then animals that we have in the real world, and so it was at times kind of hard to get a gauge on what kind of world it is. But as I already said, I was very much getting sci-fi from this, but with a little bit of fantasy sprinkled in. However, it did have an interesting plot, and I do see how it can be an enjoyable, fun read. I think the people it'll appeal the most to, or it has appealed to the most to maybe, are people who are fans of the Star Wars sequels, which aren't real and can't hurt me. She does make it original in many ways, and she has a true like enemies to lovers storyline with the enemies like actually trying to kill each other in battle. And while Aether Mansing did remind me of like using the Force and midi-chlorians and kyber crystals and that kind of stuff, it's not the same. Like I was picturing a lightsaber when she summoned her light weapon, but I think that was more of a me thing. I don't think that's what it was necessarily meant to be, because the Aether Mansing is not the same as lightsabers getting energy from kyber crystals. But I do see the influence there for sure. However, it was it was something new. Remember that Wookiee in the Clone Wars, the Wookiee Padawan? Oh, what's his name? Gunji? Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name, but he's my son. He's like literally my son. But from what I understand, Thea Guanzon is a fan of the sequels and of Reylo, and I can feel the kind of love for that in this book. And I love when people make art that they're passionate about and about things they love about. So I do love this for her, and I do see an audience for this book. I just think that I'm not the audience for it, and that's why I ended up DNFing. Again, like, while I had some issues with the pacing and like the world building, I do think there are a lot of elements that would make it an enjoyable book for a lot of people. I just, unfortunately, it's not for me right now. Maybe one day I'll come back to it and I will enjoy it. Just right now, for some reason, I'm not really enjoying it. But I'm gonna move on to read Howl's Moving Castle. I am going to make this a separate vlog. I know it's probably gonna be up in a couple weeks. I just was thinking about making this a multiple book reading vlog, just kind of maybe keep going until I find a book I love, but just with all the things I have to do right now, I'm very busy in my life right now, that this is gonna end up being a DNF vlog. Might be a shorter vlog, but I will be vlogging myself reading this, and that'll come out in a couple weeks. But I'm excited because I've been meaning to read this for years. I just got it when I got the Hurricane Wars. I did a Pango Books order. As I already said, I got that from Pango Books. I got this from Pango Books as well. So it's been on the list for a while though, and I can't wait to read it. So that's this vlog. It's probably shorter than my other vlogs and vlogs to come because of this book being a DNF and because I didn't have time to do multiple books, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please like and subscribe for more reading vlogs as well as other reading videos. And if you loved the Hurricane Wars, again, I do not mean to, whenever I give my opinions on a book and criticism on a book, I never mean to say like it's a bad book and you shouldn't read it. If you still want to check that out, go for it, check it out. That's just how that was just how I felt about the book. It just wasn't for me. So yeah, anyway, I don't know. Bye!